My name's Fender. I'm a director of Fender Katsalidis Architects. We're a firm that is based in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. We started about 25 years ago in practice. The first projects were actually residential projects that were initiated in a development sense by our partner Katsalidis. We had the ability to really design those from our own basic design platforms. The building we're sitting in, which is Eureka Tower, that became, at the time, the tallest building in the Southern Hemisphere, the tallest floor plate in Australia, and certainly when it was marketed or released in the year 2000, way ahead of its time. Took everyone by surprise and really captured imagination, so it was very successful. Our next really large project was Merdeka 118. Now this is a building that will be the second tallest building when it's finished. Early next year. It happens to be on one of the most important sites in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, the place where independence was proclaimed by the then Prime Minister in 1957. And it is marked by a heritage stadium, which is an open stadium, and it was on that field that the Prime Minister raised his finger and said, "We will be independent." It's an amazing site, and to be tasked with the challenge of putting a major building on that site, it was quite a challenge and quite a responsibility and also a huge honour. Our building is formed by a lot of triangular pieces that go together to make the crystalline form, and those triangular pieces are a subtle reference to the many different cultures, religions and types of society that make up Malaysia. It's a way of reconciling the modern issues with the traditional issues and the history and the makeup of a city like Kuala Lumpur. This is a complicated building. It's 300 metres tall, but you know, the building sways about 600 about the axis. It's got all of those characteristics of a tall building and the complexity of structuring that you come across with towers like this. And the use of ArchiCAD or a 3D virtual model was just fantastic. It meant that we could all talk to each other in the studio in a very accurate, coherent way, that the virtual model we created was rich with information that could flow out of it in the form of drawings or shared models with consultants, contractors, etc. And we were pretty much excited about using ArchiCAD in those days, but after we did this building, we were totally committed. And we've been part of the journey with ArchiCAD for all of those years, for every new edition of ArchiCAD that's come along. It's got 3 outrigger zones. That's where, you know, major pieces of steel come into the concrete core and anchor and help support the building. It's got complex shapes. The curtain wall is crystalline, it moves, it has to meet the concrete accurately. The concrete has to work, in a sense, coherently with the core and the steel structures. These are incredibly complex technologies, and to have a very rich program like ArchiCAD at our service to help design these, to help envisage how technical, complicated junctions come together, to tell us how materiality interfaces with structure, how curtain walls tie back to slabs. This is mind-boggling stuff. So anything that we can get our hands on that helps us to produce that, helps us on our journey, is more than welcomed. And I think that technologies such as Graphisoft's ArchiCAD is it's a critical part of our future. To be able to contribute to city life by even tall buildings like Eureka, by making the public realm compelling, interesting, places for art, places for gathering, places for interacting. That's the joy of what we do, and I think that that's what we see our responsibility is and what we want to keep doing going forward. Really making every piece of the city that we touch a better place.